Okay, so we have done our best to make the scoring parameters for your event as flexible as possible. So the first one we come in, when we come into the update scoring screen, we have the round robin scoring, which is the scoring that occurs during the preliminary rounds as teams are playing. And we can put a title in here, whatever we want. We can call it preliminary round, whatever I'm going to call it. And let's say in this case I want it to be 3 points for a win, which is fairly standard, although there are different variations, and 1 point for a tie, and no other points. And that's all we're gonna award during the preliminary rounds. So then I'm going to submit to save this, and when I look down here I'll see my round robin scoring, preliminary round, 3 points a win, 1 for a tie. Now my first tiebreaker here, tiebreaker number 1, head to head, was already put in, but let's click that, and I click the plus sign next to there, and now I'm working on the tiebreaker. Now my first tiebreaker, if it's going to be head to head, again I can put in a description that'll appear, and I'll call it head to head, and all I want is everything is 0 and no except for head to head. So we give 1 point for the team that wins in head to head, and this is really just going to happen if there's 2 teams. If there's more than 2 teams that are head to head, we aren't going to use this criteria. We're going to skip over it. But we have a checkbox if we want to say go back to head if more than 2 teams. So that way what happens is if 3 teams are tied, then we'll skip head to head. But once one of the teams drops out because either they had less points in a further tiebreaker or more points and they move up, then we'll go back to head for the remaining team if this is checked. So I can now submit this, which gives me my head to head if only 2 teams are tied. My next tiebreaker, I'm going to have score differential, and I'm going to call this what we normally see that as net goal differential. And we missed that somewhere, but I'm going to go through that again. Net goal differential, and I'm going to correct my spelling maybe, and I'm going to come down, and 1 point for a goal differential. And in this case, if I want, I come to the right of that one, differential, and I have max, and I'm going to say we're only going to allow 3 goals per game. So in this case, they would get 1 point for every net goal differential, plus or minus, to a maximum of 3 or -3 per game. We do have the option of saying add only, which some states use, where they'll award points for goals, but we don't take away points if they lose. But normally we won't check that. It's not add only. Differential is 3 and submit. Now I'm done with what was already in there, but let's say we have another tiebreaker. And we can keep adding as many as we want. And if I click up here, I'm going to add a new one. And you can see now it does tiebreaker number 3. And let's say we want to be least goals allowed. And in this case, we're going to give 1 point. We're going to select a point here in least points allowed. So this is goals allowed. And then max, we usually don't have a max. If we had a max, we'd put it here. We'd say no maximum. So normally we'd see it like this. They're gonna get a penalty point for every goal they gave up, and when we compare the 2 teams, whoever has the less penalty points would advance on this tiebreaker. And I submit to save that. And now I'm going to kind of finish it off, although it may not be the case, but I'm going to say, I'm going to add one more, and we're going to use our normal last tiebreakers, and we'll call it kicks from the mark when all else fails. And this may even be coin toss. And in this case, we just say we're going to give 1 point for a shootout and submit. And now when you see, this is what we have. We have all of our tiebreakers, and I'm going to shrink this down so you can see it in the window or work with perhaps, or maybe just make you dizzy. And anyway, that's what we're running out of time on our video, but that hopefully shows you how to create your scoring parameters.